All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We've got a great show for you guys today. As always, my name is Justin Ong, and we're here for a video meetup today to learn all about how HPE and Microsoft can help advance your SQL deployment and get you the database solutions that you may be looking for. For more on this, we have a great panel of experts, including a couple of experts from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick things off with a round of introductions. Coming to us first, Mr. Mike Harding. Mike, welcome to the show today. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Mike, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
I will do that. I won't stay in stealth mode. Yeah, so I'm the product manager in charge of our Microsoft solutions here within the storage business unit at HPE.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We are looking forward to hearing from you. We are joined today by your partner in crime, coming to us all the way from down under in Australia, Mr. Rambo Wang. Rambo, how are you today, sir?
Hi, good day. This is early morning here, but thank you everyone for joining. I work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Storage Business Unit in the technical marketing engineering team. I'm partnering with Mike to provide the storage solutions for Microsoft applications.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll go ahead and get right into it. Mike, maybe we can start off with you. You know, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, you guys have been partners for quite some time. I think one of the oldest partnerships in IT. And yet, you know, we're looking at continuing to develop and foster that relationship for the benefit of the organizations and customers that you guys work with. Can you talk to us about the current state of HPE Storage in particular and how it does work with the Microsoft solutions in order to provide a better overall experience?
Yeah, so the partnership doesn't feel that old, you know, but I guess you're right. It is like 25 or maybe pushing 30 years, something like that. We across the company, HPE, works with Microsoft along, the dimensions of, compute. We're mostly focused on storage here, so I can really kind of mostly share what we're doing. We have a pretty broad array of solutions where we work with Microsoft, and it is, everything from more of the traditional stuff, and people probably know us more for, SQL Server solutions, for instance. And that's everything from departmental up to real scale up. But we have some new news we're doing with solutions around like Azure Stack HCI, for instance, and then kind of everything in between. So just departmental SQL Server, scale up SQL Servers, part of more of a consolidated Windows application environment. So SQL Server with Exchange or SharePoint, Skype, things like that. And then some of the newer things, as I mentioned, Azure Stack HCI, Azure Stack related solutions as well, whether it's data protection or networking around that. And even some newer stuff we'll be talking about the upcoming show at Microsoft Ignite.
Wonderful. And so, when it comes to a lot of these Microsoft solutions, we're talking about the latest versions of SQL, Windows Server 2019. A lot of the attention is paid on some of the fancier bells and whistles on the software side. But we don't want to lose sight of actually what on the back end can make or break that performance and experience. Can you tell us a little bit about what sets HPE apart in particular when it comes to delivery of these Microsoft solutions?
Yeah, not to harp on the theme, but definitely the breadth and depth. So as I said, we have support for Microsoft workloads from database to email collaboration, the newer hybrid cloud solutions. But in addition, the way we support those is really with a pretty broad line of infrastructure products. So as I mentioned, across HPE, we've got compute solutions like ProLiant, Synergy, mainframe, and then we have our own networking as well. And then the storage world, which is where Rambo and I really focus, we have everything from entry-level block, MSA, to Nimble storage. So that's been great for mid-market as well as up to the enterprise space, whether single SQL Server, as I said, like a consolidated environment on Nimble, very easy to use. 3PAR, where customers needed more scale, more IOPS, up to like our brand new Primera platform. And hopefully get a chance to drill in a little more about that. But super high availability for real enterprise class, what we call tier 0 storage environments. And then, as I said, we have storage networking and data protection products as well. So really a breadth of infrastructure products that we can really bring to the table for these different workloads, lots of different permutations we can pull together. So we really can pretty much meet every customer's requirement anywhere throughout there, through really the continuum of customers, smaller to larger, as well as across their remote office, branch office, back to their data center needs.
Great. Rambo, let's go to you next. What are your thoughts? How do you feel like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise in particular helps deliver a superior experience of these Microsoft solutions we're talking about?
Yes. So as Mike mentioned that Microsoft and HPE, we have a really broad integrations. So via HPE, we are designing our storage arrays in particularly. We will be looking at the features required by Microsoft applications, for example, SQL Server. And we will design some particular software tools or embed some of the features into our GUI to cater the need from the applications. For example, when we are creating storage LAN, very traditional field heavy lifted work performed by many of our administrators every day. When we are create a LAN, present it to the host for Microsoft SQL Server. If you look at the GUI in our Nimble, it will be asking that, is this LAN supposed to be used for the SQL Server database files? Or is it supposed to be used for SQL Server log files? And we have different cache slots, different format, specifically addressing the need for the SQL Server database files and the log files, and to tune it for the best performance and the dedupe and the compress ratios. By doing that, we have witnessed more than 5.6 to 1 dedupe ratios when the customers are hosting their SQL Server on top of our Nimble disk arrays. And also we have another tool site called the Nimble Windows Toolkit, NWT. With the NWT, we enabled the SQL Server administrators the ability to manipulate the storage arrays. They can figure out where does the SQL Server database hosted on the storage LANs, and they can use the command lines from Windows to create snapshots, export snapshots, and they are all native Windows command lines and the SQL Server formats. They don't have to learn a lot of new stuff from the storage side of view.
So Mike, it does seem like there's already quite a lot of optimization going on already. Can you talk to us a little bit about what additional developments, these SQL Server solutions are in the works for?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's see.
Yes.
So Rambo hit upon our different integrations, and so we have I guess we probably have at least a few different dimensions of things where we are delivering new innovations around SQL Server in particular. First of all, I guess we'll start with maybe the hardware layer, right? So we're bringing out a new platform, which I kind of mentioned already, Primera. The value there is it comes with 100% guaranteed availability. So where we have customers doing scale up, particularly scale up SQL Server, and it's mission critical. And we have customers like WB Mason, which is a great success story of ours, which is out online. Definitely encourage people to go take a look at that. But there's a customer where they really built their business around SQL Server. It has their inventory, it has all their logistics information and applications on there, so it can never really go down. Otherwise, their whole business will go down. But it's a case where that availability innovation that we have just in our data platform itself is of value to SQL Server. Let's see, in terms of integrations, I don't want to repeat what Rambo may already have said, but we continue to upgrade plugins around things like data protection, so RMCS, for instance. And just in general, just as we continue to upgrade and extend our plugins, PowerShell toolkits, just all the different things we do around either data protection, management, automation. That's definitely a value to SQL Server. And then specifically for the workload, just as I think I may have hit upon this already, we have some news coming up at Microsoft Ignite, and not only are we picking up support for SQL Server 2019. So, and that's that's a thing that we currently do across all of the Microsoft workloads. So when the latest version of Windows Server 2019 comes out, or Exchange Server 2019, we will go through and rev our tests and our publications and update all that, get information out to our customers, as well as retrain our resellers. But for SQL Server 2019 in particular, interesting thing going on there with big data clusters, which is probably a whole story in of itself. But there's a case where we are, further really kind of stretching and expanding what we do in terms of supporting these solutions, specifically for this one feature and capability within SQL Server. So to really continue to just innovate across the board to bring more value for SQL Server customers.
All right, Rambo, let's go back to you. Can you drill down for us a little bit more into this MDF? We've also heard it referred to as storage class memory.
Yes, sure. Yes, MDF is a relatively new term. It stands for memory driving flash. The concept was not that new, to be honest, because in the past 5 years, the whole industry has been trying to use flash to accelerate the read-write performance of the hard drives, right? And we have a lot of this kind of hybrid disk arrays. But now, back to like roughly 3 years ago, with the introduction of the Intel Optane storage class memory, we figured out there are a persistent storage media which is much faster than the SSD flash. And we would like to leverage this new tier to accelerate the disk I/O. So this brings up the new concept of MDF, memory driving flash. In our storage, HPE storage arrays in 3 parts, we put in the Intel Optane as a storage class memory as another accelerating tier in front of the old flash array. And by doing that, we can expect roughly half the I/O response time if the I/O hits the memory, the storage class memory. And this is not only by talking and by theory. A few months ago, HPE conducted POC, and the result has been released within the white paper. So I'm just going to capture a few facts here. So we set up a SQL Server workload based on running on servers with the backend of our 3-part 9450 all-flash array, and then we put the storage class memory in the storage array to accelerate the prefetch, the read I/Os required by the SQL Server, and we run the TPC-like workload to make it more realistic. And the show, based on our test, represents that with the SCM module enabled in a disk array, we can witness 59% decrease I/O latency. Okay, and the very interesting part is once we turn off the SCM module from the disk array, we can immediately see the increase of I/O latency from the Windows performance counter. So this represents the real I/O latency reduction and the change from the server host point of view. So page number 9 is the results we can monitor from the Windows performance counter. So the latency, I/O latency we are witness here includes the time I/O traverse across the fiber channel switch and eventually hit the storage array. Page number 10 is the same result showed from the 3-part storage management console, SSMC. So because this chart only measures the I/O latency reduction from internal the disk array, so we can see even further savings with that because it does not look after the I/O traverse time through the fibers and the switches and HBA cards and so on. So these POC definitively concludes that the SCM module embedded in disk array can even push the all-flash array to a further I/O latency number, which will be endorsed by most of the database and applications like Microsoft SQL Server. If anyone haven't have a look at this, please just Google HPE MDF, and then you will find this white paper published on our website. It's very worth reading.
Mike, is there anything else that you would add to that based on what Rambo said?
Yeah, no, I think he hit the highlights. I mean, the newsworthy thing, it really is that 59% in the case of SQL Server latency reduction. So it's definitely a big deal for customers who, particularly where maybe it's like OLAP, where they're really needing to access data quickly. That can really not only speed up the application, could really improve the user experience as well. So that's a big deal. And but I think that beyond the headlines, though, I mean, I guess the numbers that really, at least we see having broader benefit across the customer base is really the whole idea of improved availability, which we kind of touched on earlier on with Primera. That's the case where we have a guaranteed 100% availability. So that's something where there's just like a broad benefit beyond just the performance. So we try to deliver both, but we found is that everyone wants uptime. Not everyone, particular segments really need the performance in particular. But hopefully that's a good segue for some of the other stuff I think we want to talk about in terms of data availability, security, things like that.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, that was probably a good time to go into that. We've been talking about performance, but are there other kind of key features and capabilities that we wanted to highlight for our viewers today, Mike?
Oh God, okay. Well, I think I was hitting on them already, right? Beyond performance, definitely availability. We've traditionally had, 6 nines of availability that we delivered on Nimble, and then 3PAR. As I said, now 100% on Primera. So that's a very big deal for customers, particularly those that are running business critical applications, workloads on top of on their SQL Server environments. What else? We have news around just like some of the new media that we're using. So, Rambo already talked about storage class memory. So it's a big, new addition to what we can do to increase performance. We're working with Intel on that. Optane for storage cache. You'll also hear us talk about in the future, not too far away, actually talking about that in the PMM area. So another means to use that media in a way that's going to speed up performance, but from a different approach, right? In the memory layer. NVMe is probably a whole story there too, right? What we're doing with just whether it's just kind of re-architecting our devices to be NVMe end to end, and then just doing more with the actual the disks, the NVMe disks, the media themselves, adding that to devices like Apollo, just for more performance, more capacity. But once again, it's more of a performance play, letting customers do what they have been doing in the past, but now just a little faster. And the economics, I know Rambo's talked about this in the past, and he's pretty convinced, and he's convincing me that just based on the cost curves, I mean, it's very quickly kind of going from a world where we want to be able to deliver an optimal mix of spinning disks and flash, and now that we're kind of going to all flash. Now we're looking at all NVMe coming up pretty quickly. So lots of exciting new kind of news things that we're bringing to the market, bringing to our customers.
Very cool. Very cool. And Rambo, anything that you would add to that?
Yes. We know that the performance is always a very complicated topic, right? Every customer requires a better performance across the time. They always want faster storage arrays, faster servers. Okay. So we used to have the storage arrays which runs on hard drives. Then we have the storage arrays runs on all flash. We can deliver hundreds of thousands of IOPS with sub 1 milliseconds. And now we have arrays can deliver like millions of IOs with less than half of 1 millisecond. But what happens in the future? We know that there will always be faster array, faster device, new generations coming out. The innovation will never stop in the IT industry. So HPE, we have a program called the Timeless. With the Timeless program, once customer enrolled, we will help customer to migrate their workload data and their storage array always from the current generation to the next generation to the next generation, always keep up with the hunger requirements of the applications, right? So that is a very unique value proposition from HPE to help customer not only to buy one device and then probably feeling it's not so sexy and fast after 3 or 5 years, but we help them to always keep it as running as fast as they ever imagine. So Mike mentioned about the 100% data availability. So that's really a big push, because back to the time I started working in the storage industry like 15, 20 years ago, we have like 4 nines, the storage arrays which can deliver 4 nines availability, and then 5 nines, 6 nines, 7 nines. And now we make a big difference with Primera, which can guarantee 100% data availability without any special contract, without any special additional requirement. But that's still a single device. I have really faced on our device, but think about the devices like aeroplane, devices like rocket, which will have more advanced technology, cost much more money than just storage array. But single device, there's always a possibility of accident. So within HPE Storage, we have the multi-site replication technology. In HPE Storage, we call it peer persistence. And the name comes that if we have 2 or more storage arrays placed in 1 or 2 different geolocations, they can replicate data to each other synchronously. And at the same time, they can also serve IOs, even read or write IOs to a single host at the same time. So at an event of a single array goes offline due to whatever reasons, the other disk array will immediately take over all the workload to accept the write IOs, to serve the read IOs, and to give application the data it requested. So by doing that, we have 2 peers which kind of like cover body to body to each other, and we can even further extend that to a continental level with what we call the peer persistence 3DC. So we can have 2 arrays helping each other at exactly the same synchronous mode with a much like shorter distance like metro area, and we have another one helping to cover the data replication running in like another continent or another country. Yeah, and that's roughly the way how we can elevate the data availability from a single array level to a multi-array like a system level. And on top of that, we still think this is not enough to talk about data availability, because even the hardware, the platform is so robust with a very complicated failover mode. There are new threats in the IT industry with the hackware, with the malicious software, with hackers. They may go into customer environment occasionally and cause millions or tens of millions loss, make customer unable to access the data. In that case, we have a new data protection solution to help customer to further eliminate the vulnerability point in their whole system, to help customer to protect their data and avoid the potential attacks from outside.
Now, Mike, you mentioned the multi-site replication in this RMC. Can you go into a little bit more detail about that? I think our folks want to know a little bit more.
Yeah, no, actually, I totally can't. No, actually, no, I could highlight it, but actually, Rambo would probably do it just better justice to kind of pick through that. But as you said, definitely, it's a very important availability benefit. I mean, feature for us. We just rolled this out on, I think the latest platform to pick it up was Nimble, right? If I'm hopefully not getting these things backwards, but oh yeah, Rambo, if you want to just like pick through the details, that'd be great.
Yes.
Yeah,
so the concept of peer persistence was originally from HPE's 3-pass storage array, but of course we now extended to a Nimble disk array, Primera, and so on. So it now becomes the standard term, the standard technology we have. Always have 2 arrays, synchronize copying every data we got from the applications like Microsoft SQL servers, and they can serve the IOs from the applications like SQL Server. So they will fail over each other. And the most beautiful part is for the failover, our SQL Server admins or Windows admins or even storage admins does not have to do anything. So they will automatically detect the status of the other bodies, whether they are alive, whether they are serving idols. And in the event of one is going offline, the other one will immediately take over.
All right, Mike, let's talk next about AI. This is something that you know, a lot of folks are starting to get involved in, but like you mentioned with Nibble and InfoSight, this is something that HPE's had you know, in their arsenal for quite some time. Can you talk to us a little bit about what folks need to know about this?
Yeah, I'd love to. And actually, and as you kind of hit on, this is one of these capabilities where it came to HPE through Nimble first, and that's just it's a great heritage, and I can talk to that. But as you mentioned, though, it is now since, we'll make sure it's not lost, that it's available. The InfoSight is the capability you're talking about. It's available for, you know, Nimble, 3PAR, Primera. Done a lot of work in Primera in order to enable this, and then beyond storage, we have the you know, the compute side of the house also picking up the capability as well. So they have a slightly different spin on it. But yeah, let me go back to the beginning of the story. So it was almost 10 years ago, I think, at this point now, where the idea was that, and it's interesting whether it's like someone who is either really brilliant or really lazy, and it doesn't really matter which, but the outcome was that, hey, you know, if we can go through and we can get enough data from a storage array so that we can associate where, when a problem happens, you know, what was going on in that environment, make that correlation, then in essence, we should only have to solve a problem once. That was the whole thinking. So by instrumenting both the physical device as well as the OS, so the storage operating system, gathering all that data, so pulling in what has now become, you know, trillions of actual, you know, data points, but going through and finding out, you know, when a problem occurs, making a correlation to that pattern of behaviors or events that were going on in the device, then in essence you can now preemptively, you know, identify when a drive's going to fail or some other problem's going to happen. The cool thing is not only they didn't really stop there and said, okay, let's just look at what's going on, you know, in the physical device, but by gathering data all the way, you know, into the hypervisor level, and then being able to take those data points and associate them, you know, by using the same system, same InfoSight system, we're able to now detect problems, you know, going on, you know, in the, you know, in this case, you know, VMware ESX environment, so into the hypervisor. And it's really created a pretty interesting situation where you have, you know, the storage being able to proactively alert, you know, the customer or our reseller partners that, hey, there's something that's going on right now, you know, impacting your customer or your own environment, and people being kind of surprised by their system telling them that there's a problem before they even realize there's a problem. And I've actually experienced that a couple of times myself with you know, a partner coming over and saying, hey, I got this, you know, notice, and I don't know what it is. And you know, but he did have some sort of like some backup jobs that were failing, and then so it was actually InfoSight. It was telling us that, you know, we actually have a misconfigured VM. So the VM's running out of memory. The backup job's dying in, you know, within the VM. That's what's really causing you know, the in essence to have unprotected data. In his case, you know, this person was supporting like, you know, a dozen schools throughout Southern California, so potentially could have been a problem. But because it preemptively let him know you have this configuration issue, he's able to go over, make the change before anything bad happens. So that's InfoSight in a nutshell. As I said, it's been running on Nimble for like a decade, and so now we just have a wealth of data and learning there. We've now since rolled it out, and the cool thing about doing it on a new platform like Primera is the idea that because we re-architect that device from the bottom up, we can really instrument the heck out of, you know, the OS as well as the hardware. So get a lot of rich data from it, and because of that, be able to even you know, identify and preemptively you know, call out potential issues in an even richer way. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so there's an innovation that we're, you know, bringing out across the company, across HPE. And it also is part of the, like some of these bigger concepts, like Rambo was hitting on, the idea of timeless, or the idea of like 100% uptime. You know, it's 100% like the 100% uptime guarantee it's more than just some marketing gimmick. It is the fact that we have, we've done such, solid engineering jobs, the hardware and the software layer and these like cloud-based capabilities that allows us to really stand behind keeping this equipment up and running all the time. So it's yeah. So there's a lot of story there, but that's our basic AI for the data center story, which is InfoSight.
Cool. Rambo, anything that you would add as far as the InfoSight story?
Yes. Actually, I am a user of InfoSight because we run a technical marketing lab, and we definitely have all kinds of HPE gears inside our labs, and we are actually relying on the InfoSight to help us to monitor the hardware running status and the performance status of my gears. I have 3 Nimbles, I have 4 FreePass, and I'm going to have the new Primalist. And whenever I am doing a stress test or a POC, I will quickly got an email sent to my mailbox saying that your array or your environment is behaving abnormally, of course, because my system is not running the stress test 24 hours. But I can tell from these that the AI, the InfoSight is actually working. It captures the running status of my storage arrays, my VMware and Windows environments every day, and it's comparing that with the everyday activity, comparing that with the history, and figure out you are definitely running something which is abnormal. So this is not the typical environment in customer environment, but it's really cool. And not mention that I have several times I got the mailbox contains the failed hard drives and the power supplies, which I was not aware of that the array having this problem because I'm managing the lab, but I'm not staying in the lab 24 hours. But InfoSight is helping me. So even as a kind of like internal user of InfoSight, I feel it's very helpful, and I can imagine the real customer will get a heap of benefits out of that.
All right. Mike, let's go back to you. We've talked about virtualization a little bit today, but I'm curious about containers because this is something that obviously a lot of folks are looking into now. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you guys are seeing as far as containers and what you guys have been working on as far as what you're doing at HPE?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big story here, and a lot of different groups across HPE are working with containers. I mean, from what we started seeing from the storage side, is that traditionally, I mean, you're right, with virtualization, the VM was, and still is, in many ways, the atomic unit of the data center. And we still see, just, vast adoption and use. But containers started getting picked up more as like a DevOps kind of thing, because we really start seeing more of like the web native applications being developed, in containers, really more within a Linux environment. And from a storage perspective, I mean, what we saw the value we could bring is the idea of persistent storage for containers. And we found there's definitely some value there, but even more so, being able to have, integration so that, from a DevOps perspective, they can have, reliable access to the data, but in a way that's still as mobile and agile as working with the container itself. So we have came out with a first kind of wave, I guess, or a generation of plugins supporting what Docker, Kubernetes, Mesosphere, I guess, right? And we're in the process of getting those that revved, and that was primarily on Nimble, but I believe then we rolled out to 3PAR as well. So it's definitely an evolving story. As I said, there's more than just work going on within storage. It's really throughout the company. And then beyond that, I mean, the other place where we're seeing a broadening container storage really in back to SQL Server is particularly with the SQL Server 2019, and we've actually seen it with previous versions, like a slowly kind of burgeoning story of the idea of SQL Server being something bigger than just like a Windows application, right? And now, as we get into fast forward, SQL Server 2019, big data clusters, you'll be hearing a lot more about that at Microsoft Ignite and the coming year. But it's really about SQL Server now running, on Linux and containers being orchestrated with a Kubernetes layer. Pretty much, this is not your father's Windows business app anymore. A very different world. So that's gonna be kind of cool. I think it's gonna really appeal to the folks who've been working more in that big data side of the house, and I think it will be kind of maybe even a stretch opportunity for some of our traditional SQL Server DBAs and folks used to working with it solely within like a Windows environment. But there's definitely some cool capabilities there in big data clusters, polybases, things like that. But clearly speaks to this evolution towards the container space.
And Rambo, anything that you would add as far as container support that we need to know about?
Yeah, I like containers. The first thing I want to say, it's really a cool technology. It enables the endless possibilities, right? From HPE Storage point of view, we are really serious about containers. We actually embedded containers in many of our products. Okay, without from the user point of view, they don't have to feel that, they don't have to know that, but eventually we figure out the container is really helping us to develop our products. Secondly, we are looking at the solutions covering the containers in all aspects. Right now, we know that with the SQL Server, since SQL Server 2017, SQL Server could be running inside Linux and containers. And we have seen that with the SQL Server 2019, as Mike mentioned, there are more SQL Server being positioned in the containers to run more serious productive workloads, both at the edge and also at the core. Okay. And then this raises a question: when we have one or multiple serious database like SQL servers running inside containers, what they need is not only a persistent storage, which will keep data after a system reboot, but they will need some performance. They will need a decent storage with capabilities like snapshots. They will need data protections like backup solutions. And right now, I have to say, if we look at the whole industry, it's pretty empty in this area. So everyone say I can support container, but it's just like very simple connect and consume the space. So we are very serious because right now, HPE Storage, we have the container support on our major storage platforms. We have Nimble support container. We have 3-part primary support container. Even our latest Simplicity, which is a hyper-converged solution, it can support container. It has the container driver. And we also support not only the Linux-based containers, we also support Windows-based containers. And furthermore, we are looking at solutions. And so we also support fiber channel-based containers, fiber channel-based container drivers, as well as traditionally Ethernet-based container drivers, because fiber channel usually will give customer more decent performance. And looking forward, we are investigating the solutions to have a backup solution for containers. Right now, all these big names of the backup softwares, which are our partners, they don't really provide a backup solutions targeting specifically for containers. Most of them will just back up the host server running multiple containers as a file system. But we are looking into that, and we think we have some very unique solutions coming out shortly, hopefully to be shared in the future release with Spiceworks.
Okay, great. And Mike, let's go back to you. Can we talk a little bit more about SQL 2019 BDC and what do folks need to know about it?
Yeah, so that was it. Yeah, big data clusters. That's like really, in many ways, some of our big news coming up at Microsoft Ignite. And as we talked about, it's capability. It's a feature that was actually there early on, prior to SQL Server 2019. But I think with SQL Server 2019 has been a convergence of some of these previous features. Now they've all kind of come together. Linux support and big data clusters. And so there's really synergy and really more of a complete product for customers. With big data cluster in particular, I mean, the thing that's exciting there, I think, is that whereas you kind of heard us talk about the span of like all these different ways we support workloads, specifically for SQL Server, it's been everything from departmental maybe like ProLiant Compute on MSA, entry-level block storage, and then working up to SQL Server on Nimble, or SQL Server is one of a number of different applications on Nimble, or 3PAR, or scale-up solutions with 3PAR. But they've always been really these traditional environments, and more, and where someone wants to grow, they're mostly scaling up, right? So let's get more storage, bigger compute. With big data clusters, it's scale out. So it really is a different architectural approach, and so it does allow us to do some interesting things in the architectures. And once again, I think it kind of plays to our strength as being HPE, where we can provide a lot of choice. So a customer can do something that's really just kind of down and dirty, basic, just all ProLiant, local, local disk for a big data cluster. It wouldn't be real big, but I mean, it would be a cluster, right? But they can kind of take it from there. It will be showing off some of the different architectures and proof of concepts that we've done at that upcoming show. But you can really start incorporating higher levels of compute, as well as really more performant and available storage as well as different types. And so you can take this thing to the extreme level where someone could be doing something like using Superdome, incorporating Superdome compute within this, and having different storage products in there. But in addition, we could have add an entire object layer using like some software defined partner, like let's say Scality, running on Apollo 4200 hardware. That would be that scale out S3 object tier of storage for this now this scale out SQL Server cluster environment. And it allows a customer to kind of attack that SQL Server problem in a very different way, but they can achieve a pretty a lot of scale that way, get a lot of flexibility. And as I kind of alluded to at the beginning, there may be either customers that are evolving to just a different approach in IT, or we could just be serving different sectors of customers that are really more used to that sort of NoSQL or scale out kind of world, and allowing them to now use HPE products in a different way, in this case for these SQL Server big data clusters.
All right, great. All right, guys, we're trying to wrap up. I did want to give you guys an opportunity to share some final thoughts or any final announcements you wanted to share with our audience. Rambo, we'll start with you. What final takeaways would you like to share with our audience today?
Okay, I would say that we are at a very changing IT world. There are a lot of new concepts, new technologies coming out in the past 1 year, and it's very exciting. But the world is ever changing. So I would recommend everyone to look broader, to explore the different solutions provided by HPE Storage, and you definitely will find something fit for you. And lastly, both Mike and I will be in Ignite, and if you happen to go into Orlando in November, please join us. We would like to have a one-on-one conversation or any kind of network with you. Mike?
That's it. No, I think you said it all. Hopefully we'll run into some of these viewers in Orlando, buy them a beer, bore them some more about what we're doing with SQL Server and other workloads, because we have other news as well at that show. And you can always find us online as well.
There you have it. Mike, Rambo, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you as well to HPE for having us today. We hope to see you guys around again in the future, or at possibly the Ignite conference. You can see Mike and Rambo in person. Until then, guys, make sure to check out the HPE website as well as your channel partners for more information. And until then, stay safe, and we will see you guys back here next time. Take care, everyone.